Hello viewers, welcome to my channel. I'm Hashim Khan. In this video, I'm going to explain you the perquisites. What are perquisites? What are different types of perquisites? What are the rules regarding valuation of perquisites? So presently, I'm giving the lectures on the subject Income Tax 1. In this Income Tax 1, already I have uploaded so many videos regarding the introduction to income tax. What are the different types of taxes? How to compute the tax liability? And different provisions regarding residential status. All these things I have uploaded the video. Hope you have watched. And then I have given the video on computation of income from salary. How to compute income from salary. So I have given the video on the elements of the salary. The four elements are salary, allowances, perquisites, profitingly of salary. So far I have completed the salary part. So what are the items that may come under the head salary? I have explained you. How to compute the basic pay when graded scale is given. Then allowances, what are the different types of allowances and what are the provisions regarding entertainment allowance, house rent allowance and miscellaneous allowances. So we have in the previous video we have solved so many problems. Now I am coming to the next video, that is perquisite. So before watching this, I expect my viewers to regularly watch the previous videos. If you have not watched, you cannot be able to understand because every video is linked with the other video. The subject income tax, the topics are correlated. All the topics are not independent, interdependent on one another. So if you want the complete command, go to the playlist of my channel. Select the subject income tax 1 for the assessment year 2021 and select the topic introduction. Watch the starting videos, then only you can be able to understand. Now in this video, the first thing is, what do you mean by perquisite? What are perquisites? Perquisites are the benefits which are given by the employer to employee or their family members, either in cash or in kind. This is the complete definition of the term perquisites. So apart from salary and allowances, many a times the employer may give some benefits. The benefits may be cash benefit or non-cash benefit. And these benefits may be provided either to the employee or their family members, either in cash or kind. That is called perquisite. Example, simple example I'll give you. A motor car is given by the employer to use for personal purpose. Actually, car belongs to the employer, but using the employer's car is being used by the employee. The maintenance, petrol, everything is borne by the employer. That is the perquisite. Apart from that, some domestic help is provided. Some helper is provided by the employer to the employee. Similarly, rent-free accommodation is given. Many obligations of the employee which are paid by the employer. These are the examples of perquisite. According to income tax rules, perquisites are also benefits given to the employee. So it's taxable. It is taxable. Now, rules for valuation of perquisite. Income Tax Act has given elaborate provisions regarding how to calculate the value of perquisite. Now, for calculating the value of perquisite, all the perquisites are classified in 4 categories. One by one, we will study. The first, perquisites and fringe benefits to all employees. That means those fringe benefits or perquisites which are taxable for everybody, for all the employees. So whoever gets these perquisite or fringe benefits, they are liable to pay the tax. It is taxable. Second is perquisites and fringe benefits taxable to specified employees. That means there are some perquisites or fringe benefits which are taxable only to specified employees, not to everyone. Now we will study one by one. Then third one, special perquisites. Then last one is tax-free perquisites and fringe benefits. There are some benefits and perquisites and fringe benefits which are completely tax-free. A list has been given by the Income Tax Act that these perquisites are completely tax-free. In this way, we have classified all perquisites into 4 categories. Now, first, perquisites and fringe benefits taxable to all employees. One by one we will take. If you watched carefully with full concentration this video, then definitely you don't find any problems, difficulty in solving the problems, because the problems are based on the provisions which I am explaining here. So give more concentration, focus, and watch till the end of the video. Don't skip in between. Now, what are the perquisites which are taxable in the hands of all employees? Everybody, it will be taxable. Every employee who gets these benefits, it is taxable. First one, rent-free accommodation. Accommodation means a house, a flat, which is given by the employer to the employee without charging any rent. Rent-free accommodation. It is taxable in the hands of all employees. Then concession in rent of the accommodation. Sometimes the accommodation is provided by the employer to the employee at concessional rent. The actually rental value of that flat is, let it be, rupees 30,000 per month. 30,000 per month is the rent which normally prevails in that area. But the employer is charging only 5,000 rupees per month. So they are getting the concession. Instead of 30,000, the employer is charging only 5,000 rent. That is called concession in rent of the accommodation. That will also be taxable perquisite. Third one, insurance premium paid by the employer on the life of the employee. Sometimes an insurance policy will be taken by the employee, but the premium on that insurance policy is paid by the employer. It's a taxable perquisite. Next one is personal monetary obligation of the employee met by the employer. There are many cases where some monetary obligations are there of the employee, but employer has agreed to pay those monetary obligations. Example, some hotel bills are there, some travel expenditure is there. These are the monetary obligations which are to be paid by the employee himself, but the employer has agreed to pay those monetary obligations. It is taxable. Next one, interest-free loan or concession in interest on loan. Sometimes an employee will take a loan from the employer interest-free. Mr. X is an employee in a company. So if you take a loan from bank, he has to pay interest on loan. Sometimes the employer will provide the loan to the employee without any interest. That means he is getting a benefit. Interest-free loan he is getting. That benefit is a perquisite. It is taxable. Sometimes concession in the interest rate. Suppose if a person has taken a loan from bank, he has to pay 15% rate of interest to the bank. That is the banker's rate of interest. But the same loan will be taken from the employer. The employer will charge only 5% rate of interest. If it takes a loan from bank, 15% rate of interest. The employer is giving the loan at 5% rate. He is getting a benefit, concession in interest rate. That is also perquisite, tax. Holiday facilities. Some employer will provide some holiday facilities to the employee. That means employee is availing the holiday facility. That is taxable. Free meals or food. Then medical facilities, gifts, credit cards, club membership fee, use of mobile assets, transfer of mobile assets. All these items we are going to discuss in detail. If you know the provisions of these items, then definitely you won't find any difficulty while doing the problems. Now one by one I am going to explain you. The first very important is rent-free accommodation. In almost many problems will come across this perquisite. So you must know what are the provisions of Income Tax Act regarding valuation of rent-free accommodation. What do you mean by rent-free accommodation? Sometimes the employer may provide a house or a flat to the employee without charging any rent. That's a benefit. For example, I am the employee of XYZ company. The company has given me a flat, company's flat, and I'm staying in that company flat without paying any rent. If I have taken it on rent, I would have to pay the rent. If I have taken the flat on rent, then I would have to pay the rent. But the company has provided me the flat without any rent. That's a benefit to me. So Income Tax Act says rent-free accommodation is a perquisite in your hand. It's a benefit in your hand. We'll give you the provisions regarding the valuation of that perquisite. The rent-free accommodation are of two types. Unfurnished accommodation and furnished accommodation. These two types of accommodation Income Tax Act says. Unfurnished accommodation. Unfurnished accommodation means there are no furniture attached. It's a bare house. It's a just bare house. That means employee himself has to make it furnished. He has to purchase or bring all the necessities for living in that flat. That means he has to purchase all the furniture, AC and refrigerator, television set and other all appliances he has to purchase himself. A bare house is provided, that is called unfurnished house. Second one, furnished house. Sometimes the employer will provide a flat or house which is completely furnished. That means furniture is already there. Furnished means all the furniture, television set, refrigerator, AC and other household appliances are already there in the house. That is called furnished house. So two types of houses will come across. So if the house is furnished one, first of all you have to treat the house as unfurnished, find out its value. After that you have to add 10% of the cost of furniture or hire charges paid for furniture. Whichever is given, that will be added. So here, first of all, it has to be valued as unfurnished house. Then the value of furniture is to be added. So if the furnishing are owned by the employer, 10% of the cost of furniture. Sometimes the furniture is owned by the employer. Sometimes the employer will hire the furniture. Hire charges are paid by the employer. In that case, we have to see whether the furniture is owned by the employer or not owned by the employer. If the furniture provided is owned by the employer, then 10% of the cost of furniture will be added to the value of unfurnished house. So first of all, you have to value the unfurnished house. To that you have to add 10% of cost of furniture if the furniture is owned by the employer. If the furniture is hired by the employer, when furnishings are hired by the employer, actual hire charges paid or payable by the employer. Sometimes the furniture is not owned by the employer. The furniture is hired by the employer and given to the employee. In that case, whatever hire charges paid by the employer, that will be added to the value of unfurnished house. Now, for calculating the value of rent-free accommodation, all the employees are divided into two categories: government employee, non-government employee. So first of all, you have to see whether the SSC employee is a government or non-government. If government employee is there, rent fixed by the government is the value of the perquisite. The government will fix the value of rent-free accommodation. Whatever government fixed, that will be the value of the perquisite in case of government employees. Now in case of non-government employees, two situations may arise. The two situations is own accommodation or rented or hired accommodation. Sometimes the accommodation is owned by the employer. Sometimes the accommodation is hired or taken on rent by the employer and given it rent free to the employee. These two situations may arise. The first situation, when the accommodation is owned by the employer. First case, the company is owning the flat and this flat the company gives to the employees. Simple words, the flat is owned by the employer. In that case, how to calculate the value of the perquisite? It depends on the population of the city in which accommodation is given. Whether it is a small city, medium city or large city. Accordingly, the value of the perquisite is dependent. For example, if the population of the city not exceeding 10 lakh, that means up to 10 lakh. If the population is up to 10 lakh in that city where accommodation is given, the value of the perquisite is 7.5% of salary. 7.5% of salary is the value of rent-free unfurnished accommodation if the accommodation is provided in a small town where population is up to 10 lakh, not exceeding 10 lakh. If the population is exceeding 10 lakh but not exceeding 25 lakh, that means more than 10 lakh but up to 25 lakh, medium-sized town. If the accommodation is provided in this category, 10% of salary is the value of the perquisite. If the accommodation is provided in a town where the population is more than 25 lakhs, in that case the value of the perquisite is 15% of salary. So 3 percentages you have to remember. If the accommodation is given to a non-government employee, if the employee is a non-government employee and accommodation is owned by the employer, then small city up to 10 lakh population, 7.5% of salary is the value of the perquisite. If the population is exceeding 10 lakh but up to 25 lakh, exceeding 10 lakh but up to 25 lakh, 10% of salary is the value of the perquisite. If the population of the town where the accommodation is provided exceeding 25 lakh, the value of the perquisite is 15% of salary. Now we'll come to the next one. Accommodation is hired or rented by the employer. The employer is not owning the accommodation. The employer has taken the accommodation on rent and given this accommodation rent free to the employee. In that case, the value of the perquisite is least of the following two amounts. The two amounts are rent paid by the employer or 15% of salary. Rent paid by the employer or 15% of salary, whichever is less, is the value of the perquisite if the accommodation is hired or rented by the employer. Now, salary. The meaning of salary, we require it because here we have to calculate 7.5% of salary, 10% of salary, 20%. So salary is required. So what is the meaning of the term salary? It differs from one item to another item. In case of previous topics, entertainment allowance, we have seen for calculating EA, salary means only basic, nothing else. For calculating HRA, house rent allowance, salary means basic. DA will be included if it enters for retirement benefit, plus commission if it is based on fixed percentage on turnover. This is the meaning of the term salary while calculating HRA. तो EA कैलकुलेट करने के टाइम पर, HRA कैलकुलेट करने के टाइम पर और रेंट फ्री एकोमोडेशन के लिए सैलरी का मीनिंग अलग अलग होता है, डिफरेंट. So here what do you mean by salary? What are the items that should be taken under that salary? Basic plus bonus plus fees plus commission plus DP. DP means dearness pay. Dearness pay means that DA which enters for retirement benefit. That dearness allowance which enters for retirement benefit is called DP. Then plus all taxable allowances. All taxable allowances except DA. DA if enters for retirement benefit. DA will be included only if it enters for retirement benefit. Any monetary payment made by the employer. Any monetary payment made by the employer other than perquisites. And income tax or profession tax paid or reimbursed by the employer. So this is the definition you have to remember. Again I repeat, very important provision you have to remember. Without finding out salary, you cannot find out rent-free accommodation value. Salary means basic plus bonus plus fees plus commission plus DP plus all taxable allowances except DA. DA will be included if it enters for retirement benefit plus any monetary benefit payment made by the employer other than perquisites plus income tax or profession tax paid or reimbursed by the employer. This is the meaning of the term salary. Now any accommodation, first it has to be valued as unfurnished accommodation. After finding out the value of unfurnished accommodation, we have to add 10% of the cost of furniture if the furniture is owned by the employer. If the furniture is not owned by the employer, then whatever the hire charges paid by the employer, that will be added. Then we'll get a value of rent-free furnished accommodation. That's it. Now when accommodation is provided in hotel, sometimes the accommodation is provided by the employer in a hotel. The employer has not given a house, the employer has not given a flat. Accommodation is given in hotel. Then the value of the perquisite is least of the following two amounts. 24% of salary or actual charges paid or payable to the hotel. 24% of salary or actual charges paid to the hotel by the employer, whichever is least. But this perk is tax-free to all employees on satisfying the following three conditions. If the three conditions are satisfied, then this perquisite, that accommodation is given in a hotel, will be tax-free. So what are the first conditions? The first, accommodation is provided in a hotel on the transfer of the employee from one place to another place. For example, presently at one place, the accommodation is, the worker is working. He was transferred from one place to another place and for shifting from one place to another place, the accommodation is provided in a hotel. Then Income Tax Act says it is a tax-free perquisite. Second, such accommodation is provided for less than 15 days. If the accommodation is given in a hotel for less than 15 days, again it's a tax-free perquisite. Third one, such a hotel is hired, not owned by the employer. The accommodation which is given in a hotel, the hotel should not be owned by the employer, it is a hired one. If these three conditions are satisfied, then the accommodation provided in a hotel is tax-free, otherwise it is taxable. So these are the perquisites. In this video I have explained you the meaning of the term perquisites, what are the different types of perquisites, and what are the perquisites which are taxable in all the cases, and rent-free accommodation. We'll continue this in the next part.